What up, guys? It's David here from the FC Podcast. Thanks for coming back for the next episode. You'll be glad to know I'm not all by myself. I have indeed got my partner in crime, the Bonnie to my Clyde, the Muttley to my Dastardly, the Gauntlet to my Thanos. Hashtag it's Steve.
Oh, nice wee pop culture reference there with the Infinity Gauntlet and whatnot, eh?
We're going to have to talk about it tonight.
Oh, yeah.
I have to confess, I kind of forgot what tonight's podcast is all about. But it's all coming back to me now, because we're...
oh, the groans, this is horrendous.
He's shaking his head. Because we are joined with a very, very special guest tonight. We have Shaun from the Celine Dion Podcast. Woo! How's it going, Shaun?
Hello, bonjour. Very, very good on the puns. Very good.
Thank you. Plenty more where that came from. I drove all night thinking of them.
Yeah. What are we, 30 seconds in? I can't wait.
Hashtag dad jokes. Welcome. How's it going, Shaun?
Good. Yeah, thank you very much for having me on. It's a real treat to be part of your show tonight.
Excellent. No, thank you. So, Shaun's on tonight. He's agreed to come on and talk to us about what podcasting means to him. Shaun has got the world's only Celine Dion podcast and has pretty much cornered the market on that. So, nice work, Shaun. Nice.
Bit of monopoly there.
Yeah. Before we get into all that, though, we all seen this little small indie film at the weekend, didn't we? And I just feel we all have to talk about it.
Only twice.
I just feel we have to. Only twice? Oh, Steve, I'm going again on Tuesday night. I'm actually going in IMAX 3D. I hate IMAX 3D. And I'm actually going again.
Sorry, guys. Once was enough for me.
Yeah.
Was it?
It was. It was. Sorry, I know.
Controversial.
Oh, it's a shame my camera's not working. You'd see me just nearly keel over on my seat.
Brilliant. Well, this is interesting actually because you're the first person that's shown anything less than a get hype response to this. So, be curious to know your thoughts on it, Shaun.
No, it's a good film. It's funny. The CGI was great. Good story. But me personally, I'm not a huge fan of superhero films and the whole Marvel cinematic universe. Now I realise that's like blasphemy. I totally accept that. But it's just a personal choice. You know, it's a decent film. But you know, I don't quite get all the hype, to be honest. There's been one or two along the way that I've really enjoyed. Spider-Man, the most recent one, really good. Mm-hmm. Ant-Man, loved that. I actually own it on Blu-ray. That's how much I like that one. Mm-hmm. But the whole, following a story for 10 years in a film thing, not really for me.
Is it too much commitment?
Exactly that, yeah. We'll go with that.
The thing is, Shaun is not afraid of commitment because Shaun recently got engaged.
Hey.
Congratulations, Shaun.
Thank you.
You poor soul. Yeah. So nobody warned you off it yet.
And we're still engaged. That's good.
That's a win. He's seen my suffering and he still wants to go through with it. You know.
That's a good point, actually. That's a good point.
Yeah. Sorry, Shaun's missus.
Yeah, she won't. I won't let her hear this.
Oh right, that's fine. Yeah.
It's all good.
Yeah, Ash refuses to listen to my stuff anyway. She cringes the second she hears my voice on the recording, or face to face.
Smidge harsh, I would suggest.
She wakes up, looks over, sees I'm still breathing, and that's her day ruined. You know.
Oh dear.
So nothing's changed then, no?
No, nothing's changed.
No.
So yeah, Shaun, we go way back, don't we?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. We absolutely do.
Way back, yeah. I mean, must have been 2006, 2007, maybe? You came to Perth? Was it before then?
Well, I think, yeah, probably that's about right, because I left as the 2010, I would say. So yeah,
right,
that's probably about right. That's probably about right.
Was it that long ago you left?
Yeah, crazy. Absolutely crazy.
That's crazy.
Been with the other side now for 6 years.
Jeez. And in 2 years it might no longer exist.
Yeah, yay! Thanks for that.
Asperries.
Does that mean you're like...
Sounds like Asperries actually, doesn't it?
Does that mean, David, your
Explains
mega
a lot.
card that you're working towards, and basically the only reason you're not going to give up your crappy Asda job that you love so much, because you want your magic pass that gets you that lifetime discount, be null and void, because the Sainsbury's deal will go through and that'll be it. They'll rip them all up.
You know what? That's just my luck.
Oh, it's
That is
guaranteed.
entirely my
And Ash
luck.
is just going to have a face on her looking at you forevermore, go, damn it, you. 10 years you were meant to do that.
Why
Give
can't
me
we
my
just be
lifetime
3
thing.
years older? That'd break my heart. I seen Infinity War on Friday night, and I was just, there was so many moments where I was just like sitting next to Paul, and I was just like, just breathe out, because it was like so
Dark.
intense, like right
Constant.
from the get go.
Yes.
Without giving any spoilers away, the first sort of big fight in New York, and you just seen how strong the Black Order were,
Mm-hmm.
and it was just like, this cannot end well, because they're the minions to Thanos.
Do you know what? Even before that, the first thing that got me was the opening Marvel montage they always have, and they normally have their standard Marvel fanfare. This time round, it wasn't. It was different music. It was bleak. It was like, here we go.
It had
and,
something-
goosebumps from point one. I was like, yes.
And it had that recording, or that transmission that you were hearing as
Yes.
well. And
Well, see, I want to ask a question, but it would be a massive spoiler, so I can't.
well, ask after.
Okay.
Scribble
So-
notes to
Okay.
yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm doing it.
I'll do that. Because as I say, I don't obviously follow it as closely as you guys, but the person that I was there with very much reacted the way you've just described, David, like it was the wheel was being reinvented kind of thing. But we kind of didn't have a chance to speak after it, so it's a question I have that I want to ask, so we'll keep that for later.
Right. No, that's fine. You'll never guess what I found today. So, last summer, I spent most of my non-working hours with my dad building a playhouse for the girls.
Mm-hmm.
Went in yesterday, moved a beanbag, and a wasp came flying out. So, after I'd stopped kind of shrieking like a girl, and put my big boy pants back on, I went back into the playhouse. It had flown away. I was still running around the laps of the garden long after it had flown away. And I went in and found the start of a nest. It was building a nest on one of their beanbags. I was like, you dirty little. So today I went back in. Guess what? It was there again, hanging from the roof, rebuilding its nest from scratch again.
What the hell?
Yeah, well, I did what any manly man would do. I slowly backed out of the playhouse, shut the door, and hoped the girls would find it first.
Seems reasonable.
Like lambs to the slaughter. Next time they go in, give them like a can of hairspray and a lighter, and say, "You'll know what to do if you need it."
They'll be like, Daddy, why are you setting fire to that tennis racket? Open the door. No, I dealt with it. I did deal with it using a jar. If you put a jar over it and slide it in, maybe throw in some chemicals as well, and
Wow.
it's been dealt with. I can't squash them, I can't crush them or anything. I hate the crunch.
Yeah.
They crunch like a solid crisp.
So you'll poison them instead. That seems right.
Uber
Yeah, well, there's no
humane.
crunch. There's no discomfort for me.
Yeah, good point.
And we've now just lost the WWF as a follower.
I thought you were going to say WWE there. You were.
I got myself so
Steve.
confused, but I was listening to Fresh Talk, and they were doing the professional wrestling parts 1, 2, and 3. So I have
Right.
wrestling kind of on the brain at the minute.
Speaking of Fresh Talk, just want to take a moment to thank Army of Freshmen for our intro music. We'll always have forever. Kindly donated that to us to help us in our quest for world podcast domination locally.
Well, it's going to have to be second. Do we not let Fresh Talk take... No, Celine Dion will take number 1, won't it?
Oh, easily. She's used to that though.
That's the way it is.
Well, let's just aim for like a routine 50 listeners. Let's go with that.
What, a minute?
Oh, you've set him off. Steve gets the giggles. It's brilliant. It's half the reason I do podcasting is to set Steve's giggles off.
Yeah. I wasn't so sure today. I wasn't feeling it today, so I was a bit like, oh no, am I going to be such a dour so-and-so tonight? But I think I'm alright.
Yeah, that would be an upgrade.
Oh dear.
It always comes back for more. So. Anyway, let's get to the reason we're gathered here tonight. That sounds so.
That was very morbid, yeah.
That was, yeah.
Isn't that what they say? That's what they say at the church service when people are getting married as well, is it not? We're gathered here today.
Yeah, it starts the same way.
I would like to think that after the show tonight, my heart will go on. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yes, here we go. Fantastic.
There we go.
I'm going to have to get up a list of Celine Dion songs now. Yeah.
Oh man, if walls could talk. So yeah, we've dropped in a few references there. Hopefully someone got them. Shaun, over to you. Tell us a bit about... In fact, tell us a lot about your podcast. Tell us what's going on with the Celine Dion Podcast.
Right, well, okay. Basically, 2014, that's when the first episode was published on YouTube, way back in the day.
Yeah.
And the reason was, I was listening to a few podcasts myself at the time about various subjects, and the penny kind of just dropped on me that, I've been a Celine fan my whole life, a follower, updates daily, Facebook, being a member of Celine Dion Forum for 20 years. So the kind of penny dropped that why is nobody doing one about Celine? She's the best-selling female musician of all time. She's got mega successful careers in English and in French. This is something that should be happening. So I had a look out there on all the usual kind of outlets for podcasts, and nobody was. I was astounded. So kind of been a fan of talk radio my whole life, and even back in the day, I can remember being a kid, taping the charts and things up in the bedroom, and trying to be the DJ. Was I the only person that did that? Being the DJ,
the original pirate.
Absolutely. So I always kind of had that interest for recording and speaking and things like that. So decided to put something together, very basic, just updating on news, a few archive interviews, a few songs, and so on. And like I mentioned earlier, I was a member, I still am a member of the Celine Dion Forum for over 20 years. So once I'd completed that very first episode, I decided to share it with the guys there. They've got about 30,000 active members. And thought to myself, if people like it, great. If they don't, no big deal. It was fun. But the response was incredible. People loved it, and kind of like me, why has nobody ever done this beforehand? And because like there's a gap in the market, you kind of referenced it yourself earlier on. Mm-hmm. So it kind of grew and grew from there. Bought some space over on SoundCloud, and that remains the home of the podcast today. SoundCloud.com/Celine-Dion-podcast, just so you know. And there's 40 episodes available there now. Try to stick to doing roughly one a month, since June 2014. There's also live concert audio over there from various Celine concerts I've been lucky enough to go to around the world. Vegas, Paris, London, Glasgow last August when she came to Scotland. And the kind of rough format of the show has stayed the same. All the latest news from the last podcast, bring the listeners up to date. Play some music. We have also had a few special guests on along the way, various Celine fans who've wanted to come on and do a very similar kind of exercise, if you like, to what we're doing now, talk about their kind of experience of being a Celine fan. And lots of shout-outs, lots of requests along the way from the guys who listen to the show as well. So it's incredible to think that it's come up for 4 years now since it started. But, the figures have just kind of rocketed from the early days. You referenced yourselves, you guys are just starting out. I've been there, done that, and just grown a following because, like I said, I've been lucky enough to go to a lot of the places Celine's been performing, and just more and more people get on board and discover the podcast. So, I'm not sure if I've covered it all there, but hopefully gives a little bit of an idea of what it's all about.
Yeah, no, that's interesting, and it's good to hear you started in 2014 and it's still growing, it's still going. It's good for us because this one started 3 months ago. You know, and our previous one started August 16. So, you know, it's good to know that there is life, shelf life, not shelf life because that suggests it ends, but there is continuous life for podcasts if you're willing to put in the effort. So, no, that's good.
I've been writing so much stuff down, so when you're blathering there. So, there you go. So, an episode a month, that was the first thing that struck me. That's an interesting setup, because I think a lot of things I listen to, or what people generally seem to say, is about one a week, very occasionally one a fortnight pace. I suppose the problem with that then is, well, have you got enough to talk about, or have, you know, do you kind of exhaust, you know, or to a certain degree maybe annoy your fan base by doing that. So I like that. I love that idea of the fact you're just doing the one a month, keeping it very sensibly paced. I suppose it's a lot easier to manage from your point of view then, yeah.
Yeah, and that was something that I'd kind of committed to very early on, way back in the early days of the Facebook page and the Twitter page and so on. All of the kind of graphics for the podcast show clearly stated that a new show would be published on the first of every month. So I'd kind of committed to doing 12 a year, simply because back in 2014, when I launched the show, there wasn't actually much happening in Celine's life and career at that point. She was taking a bit of time off because her husband was unwell. You know, so there wasn't actually much to talk about. There was no kind of news happening and so on. Then I realised that in terms of the commitments I have in life and so on, that committing to an actual date in every month was probably quite silly. So I think it was about 6 or 7 episodes then I scrapped the first of the month idea and just committed to every month. And it kind of, the reality is, it's kind of what you touched upon there. There wouldn't be much to talk about in the world of Celine Dion in terms of fresh news every month, because, you know, part of her career now is in Las Vegas. She's been touring a bit more the last few years, but no albums have been released in the last couple of years. And like I say, a lot of the news as well, Celine's on stage in Vegas tonight. There's only kind of so many times you can say that. So certainly the once a month format for myself has worked. And what's interesting is, if on the rare occasion it might go 5 or 6 weeks between shows, I may be away on holiday or I've got work commitments or something, the amount of people that email you or get in touch on the social media and go, "Are we getting another episode?" It's Mark, you know, so that's reassuring that people are waiting for it.
Yeah.
But you know, yeah, I know what you mean, and you know, for something like yourselves, maybe who it's a bit more frequent, that's probably the way to build an audience as well, because people are getting to know you guys and what, you know, what you're interested in and so on. But certainly for me, that format, and the format I have on the show, if you've listened to it, is slightly different. It's more, I would suggest, like a radio style show. That there are, you know, kind of defined segments, if you like, but it works.
And have you had problems?
You ever had any?
Sorry, carry on, Dave.
No, you go, because I think you're about to ask the same thing as me.
But yeah, I was going to say, have you ever had any problems with the music licensing? You did say that you were, you know, you play bits, whether it's segments or whole songs or whatnot, because I know that's a very, very touchy subject, particularly when it comes to YouTube.
Yeah,
that was what I was going to ask.
No, it's a fair point, and one that certainly in the early days I found my challenges with. So what I've tried to do, in fact what I've exclusively done from probably about episode 3 or 4, is where possible play live versions of songs that are not, you know, impacted by copyright claims and so on. And YouTube certainly doesn't like that, but SoundCloud and so on is okay with it. So that's why I've tried to keep the SoundCloud page as the only place to get the podcast shows. And it's also, to be quite honest, it's a good way to just have, you know, if people want the Celine Dion podcast, that is where they go and that's where they're available to get. But ultimately, sorry, to answer your question, where possible, I play live versions of songs or versions even that I have recorded myself at concerts. And where I can't, I would just go for maybe like snippets of, like if there was a new single, for example, I'd maybe play 20, 30 seconds of it only.
Yeah. No, that's cool.
Because that was my thought when I'd listened. I was like, yeah, I wonder how he kind of deals with that. We posted our first one on YouTube just yesterday. we posted Stu's podcast Inside the Ogre's Cavern, and it starts with a song that, like, from the Fresh Top guys, Army of Freshmen, and they actually said, you know, you're free to use that kind of thing, but I just wondered if YouTube would have different opinions on their song, but no, it seems to be okay, because it scans it as you, like, goes through it as you're uploading, doesn't it, and it'll say straight away if it, see, I've not had that.
Yet.
So
You'll get an email in about
one, I guess.
Yeah, interestingly, the only time I've had that issue on SoundCloud was the very first episode. So if people who are just discovering my podcast now are wanting the first episode, I find that they get in touch with me because they've joined the kind of journey, if you like, on episode 20, 30, 40, and they're going back to listen to previous shows, and they're like, hey, where's the first episode? Because I often get emails or contact about that, but thankfully that's been the only issue I've experienced on SoundCloud so far, and hopefully long may that continue.
That's the dream. People getting in touch and saying, what's going on with your show?
Yeah.
Were you worried when SoundCloud had their little wobble?
Yeah, I think so, because the reality is, you know, the kind of format that we're, you know, kind of taking part in now, I don't think would work for the kind of show I would want to do. So I think Celine's got such a long career. She's got so many songs, it's such a back catalogue. It's incredible that it was really important to me that was part of the show. You know, I just couldn't imagine a song about, you know, Celine Dion without any of her music at all. But yeah, way back at the start, did I have that wobble and think, oh, here we go? Absolutely, I did.
It was. I know we had in Team Buff Geek, we had the discussions about moving from SoundCloud as well, because that's where that is. So, Shaun, you were talking about like how you loved talk radio and things like that. Has there been any other things apart from Celine Dion herself that like influenced you from podcasts? Because you said you'd listened to other podcasts and that's what got you going. So, was there anything specific within those podcasts that made you kind of think, yeah, you know, that's a great idea, I want to kind of replicate that, or I want to do something like that? Yeah,
well, the big part for me, I mean, I remember when I used to work where you currently work, David, I remember that I missed so much of, you know, what's happening in the world because you're working so much and life, you know, pace of life's fast these days. So I remember back in the day, I used to listen to the Chris Moyle Show podcast all the time when he was at Radio 1. And I used to start work at either 8 o'clock in the morning or 1:30 in the afternoon. So when I got to work at about 8:45, 10 to 8, I'd miss the rest of the Chris Moyle Show every single day. And it would be, there was some breaking news coming on, or there was some feature, and it really kind of annoyed me. So when he started doing the podcast shows, it was like, yeah, it's a fantastic way to catch up and, you know, hear those funny bits you missed out on because of whatever. And similarly, and one that I was actually probably going to mention later on towards the end is the Jurassic Park podcast, which, you know, there was a long time that went between Jurassic Park 3 and Jurassic World. And I was obviously fans all over the world, myself included, clamouring for this new film that the thought was never going to happen. So the Jurassic Park podcast as well made me realise that, yeah, there are fans of literally everything, everywhere, who want to get involved and talk about their passion. And, you know, it was just a great way for me to realise that, you know, it probably would be possible.
Right, yeah, no, that makes sense. So what was that with the Jurassic Park podcast? Was that like a drama, or was that just news and things like that?
Yeah, it's just very much like a spoken word one, like we're doing just now. You know, the guys getting together to discuss, you know, new trailers that are coming out, all different kind of media, new Blu-ray editions, you know, games and so on. Kind of that whole Jurassic Park world, if you like. Mm-hmm. It was just a group of guys getting together regularly to talk about their passions. You know, even simple things like there was whole shows dedicated to, you know, mistakes and so on in the first movie. You know, their favourite parts of the Lost World. You know, what they're most looking forward to about Jurassic World, and that goes on now. You know, even for Fallen Kingdom coming out in the summer, that, you know, there's regular shows that they just come together and talk about their passion.
I seen the trailer for Fallen Kingdom on Friday night. And I must admit, I'm not a massive Jurassic Park fan, But I actually got quite excited seeing Jeff Goldblum in it.
Yeah, it's looking good. I
That
can't
was
wait to
pretty
see
cool.
it. I cannot wait to see it. Life will find a way.
Did either of you ever play the original Jurassic Park game on the SNES?
No.
I don't think so.
I'm going to guess it wasn't very good.
Well, it was like a top-down kind of game. It was a puzzle. You had to go here, get this key, go through this gate, things like that, and obviously avoid getting eaten. But when you went into one of the buildings, it turned into like a first-person view.
Oh.
And that creeped me out. As a kid, I was like, oh, I can't do this level. So I felt well brave when I actually started being able to do this, you know.
Yeah, it rings a bell, but I can't remember, to be honest.
There was a sequel as well. I can't remember what it was called. I'll need to look that up. But there was a sequel as well, and it was quite fun actually, if I remember rightly. But no, I must admit, I'm looking forward to the Fallen Kingdom. We were talking about that the other night there because I'd made the comment that Josh Brolin was probably going to be the highest grossing actor of 2018 because of Infinity War plus Deadpool. And then Paul went, nah, it's going to be Chris Pratt. Jurassic World. And it's like, yeah, that's what it'll be.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
because that happened a couple of years ago. Scarlett Johansson got it because of one of the
Ghost in the Shell?
Cap's Civil War.
Yeah.
And then whatever
that-
else she'd done that year just tipped her up past RDJ and Chris Evans and that.
Yeah, I wasn't so about 6 months ago when they were doing the first trailer for Fallen Kingdom. I don't know whether I just got myself so hyped for that trailer coming out. I was a little bit disappointed. I was like, oh no. But I've actually really enjoyed the couple of trailers since because they've started to show you slightly different things. So I'm still going to see that. Absolutely going to see that at the cinema.
It looks insane. Like, in my head, what you seen in the trailer when they were all falling into the sea and all running away from the volcano and stuff like that, I'm hoping that's near the start of the film because I don't want them to be giving away the whole film in the trailer.
No, well, spoiler alert. The rumours are the first half of the film is basically... Should I say this? I don't know if I should say this or not. Yeah, I'm going to say it.
Go for
it. The first half of the film is basically meant to be the destruction of Isla Nublar.
Right.
So I doubt we'll ever see any future Jurassic films on the island again, or that island again, certainly. And the second half of the film is meant to be when, they've transported the dinosaurs they clearly went to save to this businessman's, country estate. And it's meant to take on a completely kind of different take at the second half of the film, tonally and things as well. So it will be interesting, but certainly the first half of the film is set on the island, but the second half is not meant to be on the island at all. I just hope it's not. I hope it's not a San Diego kind of moment from the Lost World, because that was horrific.
And there's definitely a new sort of genetically modified type dino is appearing. It almost looks like Raptor times 2.
Devil Dino.
Yeah. I forget what its name is off the top, but I've seen the Lego figures. They spoiled it. Well, not spoiled it per se, but yeah, released it.
Yeah.
I quite like the name Indominus Rex.
Oh, he was pretty cool.
First...
I thought that film was awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, I really enjoy that film. I keep saying to Ash, we need to watch Jurassic World. So, you know what, Shaun, if you can put some influence in that, put some weight behind that suggestion, that would be
absolutely
appreciated.
Absolutely. Just get it done. What I'm hoping for is they'll show Jurassic World at maybe like 10:30. The night before Fallen Kingdom comes out, it's like a double bill. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Oh, that would be quite cool. Yeah.
If that happens, we should go.
One of our friends just done an entire MCU marathon at the cinema.
Oh, that's commitment.
Did you see that, Steve?
Was that Rob?
Rob posted that.
Did he do it again?
Over 24 hours.
Oh my god.
He did it again. He done it for Age of Ultron, and he's done it again for...
What a mental case.
Oh,
I was chatting to Hammy about that actually on Saturday after we'd been seeing Infinity War. I was thinking, right, what are we going to do for this time next year when Avengers 4 comes out? We're going to have to rewatch all the 20 films again in the right order. And he's like, no way am I doing that in the cinema though. We'll do like DVD nights over 20 weeks leading up to it. And I was like, that works for me. I can do that. I am not sitting in a cinema for any more than like maybe two films back to back would probably be my limit. I might struggle on 3, but not 20 or whatever. How you manage that over a couple of days, that would just be
impressive.
Insane.
Yeah.
Why?
Well, we done the series last year, where we watched one a week and we reviewed them and podcasted on them, and then we caught up to all the films, and that took it out of me, if I'm perfectly honest. Like, I don't know, people say, if somebody said to me, let's watch them all from the start again, I'd be like, no. Not just now. Maybe in a couple of years or something, but I'm...
You're done for now, yeah.
Phase 3 I would watch again probably. See, I watched Doc Strange again the other week there.
I wasn't so bad because I obviously didn't do... I only joined you guys part of the way through that had started, so I'd missed quite a few of the films. Yeah. And because of work, I was only ever doing every second week anyway. So I maybe only watched, 5 or 6 of them, so there's a lot of them that because I skipped them... it won't be so bad if I actually redo them proper next year.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. It's quite funny just when you're talking about how you joined us halfway through. Steve's first podcast with the team, Shaun. I tell the story to everybody because I love it. We asked him to sign off at the end and he wasn't expecting to talk, and he just goes,
It was awful.
That was his entire.
Well, I was kind of brought in. See, but the way I viewed it was I was kind of like Buff Geek super fan, and I was sharing all the stuff. I was commenting. I was doing whatnot, and then David and the Buff Geek were like, "Look, do you want to come in and help with a bit of sort of technical support? You can be official fact checker. Do the stuff as we're blethering and find out all that." I was like, "Yeah, cool, I'll do that." And they said from the get go, "This is like, are you talking?" And I was like, "No, it's fine. I'm just speak to me, ask me if you want to bring something up." Because I brought his monitor, so I faced the monitor so they could see what I was typing, and then I was on the laptop, so whatever appeared, so I was like going to websites for them, anything they were talking about, I was finding it, the proper story in Wikipedia, so they had all that stuff as well. And then right at the end, they just threw in, "So, Steve, signing off," and it was just like, and it was horrendous, and I kind of botched up. So the second time round, when a couple of weeks later, when I got back, I was like, right, fair enough. They're gonna speak to me throughout. So I maybe said a couple of things, and then had my sign off, and I wrote it down, and I still botched it. It was awful.
Brilliant.
Never mind.
So, Shaun, with your podcast, I mean, you're already probably where you want to be, but do you have any further aspirations? Like, what do you want? Where would you sort of go, this is it, this is what I set out for, this is it? Because, to be honest, you've got what I'm setting out for. You've got people who are getting in touch and saying, where is it, man? Where's my podcast?
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I suppose, for me, obviously the kind of end game, I suppose, would be to get to interview Celine, to have her on the show to in any kind of capacity would be incredible. But honestly, in terms of from where I started out to now, I could never have imagined I would gain an audience, never mind sustain it, in terms of people being interested in the show and interacting with it on almost a daily basis across social media and emailing, asking for shout-outs, requests, and so on. And actually, in a way, to be honest, it's quite humbling, because something that you start out as a hobby and people are interested in it. Ultimately, though, to be honest, David, I do it for the fun of doing it. And if nobody at all was listening to the next show, would I still keep making them? I probably would, because part of it's the joy of putting the show together. The fact that people do listen to it and enjoy it is a genuine bonus as well. But ultimately, in terms of bucket list stuff, to get Celine onto the show for a kind of a bona fide interview would be the pinnacle of everything. And as you know, last summer in London, before the show there, the concert in the O2 on the 28th of June, I was lucky enough to meet Celine backstage. Me and Gillian, my fiance, were just flabbergasted when that email came through inviting us for the opportunity, and it was also whirlwind. If it was to happen again, I would obviously talk to her about the show and what it's all about and so on. Celine is very famous for not knowing anything about technology or anything like that. She probably not have a clue what I was speaking about. But if I was to get that opportunity again, I'd definitely talk to her about it. But obviously, in the heat of the moment, first time ever meeting your idol, it kind of wasn't high on the list, to be honest, of things to speak about. But in terms of ultimate goals and ultimate ambitions, that would be the one. But month to month, I suppose it's just keeping people entertained and happy, and if they're enjoying the show, that's good enough for me.
No, that's good. I did see, like, when I, thinking back to the picture of you three together, and I did wonder if you mentioned the podcast. Yeah. So did you get invited because of your podcast?
Well, a lot of the people who as you can probably imagine, over the years I've built up a network of contacts and so on. And one guy in particular who's been really kind to the show and to myself gave me an email address to email, prior to the shows in London last year. And I nothing ventured, so I emailed the show. The email address that was given, asking if a meet and greet would be possible. I mentioned the podcast show in the email, but the response that came back was very, generic, a standardized email. The type of email. I mean, basically the crux of it was, if you're successful for a meet and greet, you'll hear the day before the show. We'd emailed in January and the show was in June, so I kind of put it out of my mind. Right enough, the day before the show, we were in London sightseeing, and no email came through. Oh well, such is life. A couple of hours before the show, the email did come through. It was genuinely. It was about 5 o'clock on the Tuesday night in London, and the show started at, I think, 7:30 at the O2, and that is when I got an email from our team inviting us backstage. So we had to go to a certain area in the O2 and meet a representative there. We got backstage stickers and so on, and we were kind of whisked backstage, and it all happened in, I would say 60 to 90 seconds. It was, we were in, spoke to our photo, and out again. So yeah, listen, hey, it might have been something to do with the podcast, because it certainly was mentioned in the original email, but I don't know is the honest answer.
Still, like you say, nothing ventured, nothing gained. I like to think that it helped.
Yeah, absolutely. I like to think so too.
No, it's a very cool story though. Yeah, I'd always kind of thought. Yeah. I mean, I don't. You were at the Army of Freshmen concert a couple of weeks back, David, and you're more than happy go and chat to the guys from the band and stuff. And I kind of held back because I don't know if I can do it. I'm in two minds about this, meeting famous people and stuff. But hey.
What was cool about that gig, Shaun, was like I went up to the lead singer and he was like, Stobie. Brilliant. It was pretty cool. It was funny because I tell this story on every podcast, I think. He spotted me in the crowd halfway through a song and actually stopped and waved to me, and I'm like, awesome.
Brilliant. That is brilliant.
I do love my Army of Freshmen. I do love them. The only time I've ever taken Ash to a gig, I took Ash and Claire, and it was about the time we were having the regular parties in the flat and stuff like that. We were still living in that flat at the time. Was to see Army of Freshmen, and the sound levels were so off that it was just loud. It was in a small venue and it was loud, and our ears were ringing for days afterwards, and they were like, never going to another one of your concerts ever again.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not normally this bad. Every man.
What I thought was cool about meeting Celine is there was 8 people backstage in London, so me and Gillian and 6 other people, and the woman who was arranging it all, we had to meet and ask for and so on, said to me and Gillian, you two are going to be first, so if you want to come with me. And it was like we were in a holding room backstage, but there was like a curtained off area within the holding room, if you know what I mean, with like a camera set up and stuff. So me and Gillian were taken into that curtained off area and left on our own. So we've got some photos of us kind of mucking about, quite frankly, in this little area on our own. And then out of nowhere, we weren't mucking about, thankfully, out of nowhere, Celine came into this, and she walked right up to me, and she was like, Shaun. She said my name, and she's like, obviously I'm like, yeah, and she's like, nice to meet you, and I'm like, oh my god, Celine. And a lot of people maybe don't know, but her name is actually pronounced Celine. That is how you say her name, Celine. But it's obviously just become widely known as Celine. And she goes with that. So I responded, nice to meet you, Celine, which obviously I think went down quite well. And we got the photo, we got the meet and greet, we had a chit chat and so on. And as me and Gillian were walking away, I was determined to speak to her in French. So I'd been practicing for the previous hour or two how to say "see you in Scotland," because she was coming to Glasgow a couple of months later. So as we're walking away, I turned around and I said, "Oh, Celine," and she looked towards me, and I just said, "On se voit en Écosse," which means "see you in Scotland." And she was like, "Oh, très bien," and that's pretty cool.
Brilliant. No, that's
I think you were going to say you turned round and just went, je t'aime.
Security.
Walking away, merde.
There's the line. There's the line.
Oh man, that's a pretty cool story though, especially for someone as big as her, because like you said, she's the number one, all-time selling artist, and that, and to come up to you just in that moment, she comes up to you and says, "Shaun."
Yeah.
Imagine you go, "Whoop."
Yeah, pretty much, and it's the kind of thing that normally for these people, they're out of reach, or if they're not, you have to pay for stupid amounts of money for a meet and greet. But that's something she's never done. She's never done paid meet and greets. It's the luck of the draw essentially. And we were lucky enough. And like I say, I'd like to think she did know about the podcast, or somebody in her team did, and that maybe influenced the decision making. But yeah, very, very lucky, because normally the stars at that level are normally hard to get to.
That's pretty cool.
Well, Steve,
I know that
you were telling me.
Yeah, I was just about to say, yeah. So Taylor Swift in London next year, her VIP tickets start at £735 a ticket, and they go up to I think 900 and something. That's just utterly insane money for a one-night show.
Does that include a meet and greet?
I think so, but I'm not. I don't even know. I don't know off the top of my head. I've got this horrible feeling it might not. You might get pictures or something like that, but it's not actually going to see them as well, which is just crazy.
Yeah, that is crazy money.
People pay it, and that's why they do it.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, Gillian and I booked a very late holiday to Vegas last year, so we went to see Celine in London in June. Me and my mum had went to see her in Glasgow in August, and Gillian and I went again in Las Vegas. A little bit obsessed. When we were on holiday there, but we booked the tickets to go to Las Vegas at the very last minute, so there was only a limited number of seats in the Coliseum left, and the options were £1,000 each for like the first 3 rows, or basically a couple $100 away up the back, which is what we paid for. Because I'm like, that is insane. And as much as I love Celine, I wouldn't spend that amount of money to go and see a single concert. It's mad.
No, that is a lot.
Yeah, how does the residency thing work then? So she's signed to play at one venue exclusively, and is it a set number of shows?
Yeah, so essentially what happened, it was in 2003, she initially signed up to perform in a theatrical show called A New Day, and it was essentially a Cirque du Soleil show starring Celine Dion and all her music.
Right.
So Caesar's Palace built what is now known as the Coliseum, a 4,000-seat theatre just for that show, and it played 200 nights a year for 5 years, from 2003 up to the start of 2008. At that point, Celine went on a world tour and had more children. And I think it was 2011, she went back to the Coliseum in Vegas it was around about 70 nights a year at that point, and remains to this day, about 70 concerts a year there. But the contract wasn't quite as watertight as it was before, so now she can tour the world, she can perform other shows in America if she wants, whereas originally, for those original 5 years, she was kind of locked in and she could only perform there.
Oh, right, jeez, aye.
So it's been a bit more flexible now, but nowadays the show in Vegas is very much just a Celine Dion concert, as opposed to all the other kind of acrobat stuff flying around as they used to before.
Tell you what though, that's some mental fortitude. That's 1,000 shows in 5 years, and I'm guessing the show would evolve.
Yeah,
but it's basically
broadly
the same show.
Yeah.
Yeah, essentially. I mean, and disappointingly for me, and I suppose I was a little bit naive, but when I went to see Celine originally in Vegas, I think it was 2004, and then a DVD of that show was released in 2008. And then on the DVD, which was recorded a few years later, the same exact speeches and the same cues and things were on the DVD. Do you know what I mean? Whereas I like to think it's different every night, but clearly it's not.
Yeah, I suppose sometimes might be her, might be she's not so confident speaking, or it might be they're like, no, you say this,
Yeah.
I think that's when I like bands like Bowling for Soup, or comedians like Ross Noble. I love my Ross Noble.
Oh, I love Ross Noble,
When it's just, I imagine you could go see him twice, and it would be completely different shows with like 4 of the same set jokes, and the rest just totally random. Because you were there the night when he was, I asking everyone in Perth, what are you driving, loggers? Because everyone was like, sorry, I'm late parking, you know?
Yes, and the night that Ashley got picked on, she was not amused and he spotted it.
Well, it was because it was 4 nights after Caitlin had been born.
Yes.
Caitlin was like 4 days old, so Ash's mind was at home thinking about this baby. And he cracks a joke about Jimmy Savile and then turns to her and starts shouting at her, don't you judge me.
That is exactly what happened.
It was hilarious, and she had no idea what was going on. She just kind of looked at him like, huh?
Yeah.
Man.
You sitting there crossing your arms, judging me. Yeah.
Oh, man, it was funny. Yeah, he is good though. I was going to ask what have you been your podcasting highlights, but to be honest, I think you've kind of covered them. I think we need to get a campaign going though. How many retweets for a Celine Dion soundbite?
Absolutely.
This is Celine Dion. You're listening to the Celine Dion Podcast.
Exactly.
How much would
it.
you love that? You know, you should have done that. You should have just been like, go and say it, quick! I'm recording. Go.
I know.
I
think the more genuine response probably would be, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah. What's a podcast? Oh,
yeah. Right.
Well,
I don't know. In terms of highlights, I do remember, the very first time that I saw a single episode getting decent numbers. I remember doing a Christmas themed episode, surprisingly, at Christmas time in 2014. I think it was
recorded midsummer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think it was like episode 7 in total, and that was the first time that the kind of numbers got into the thousands in terms of streams and downloads. And I remember looking at those numbers and like, that's incredible. And even now, to this day, people are still listening to that Christmas theme. They've done a couple more since, but that episode still gets downloaded and streamed now, which is crazy. But yeah, I suppose I do mean what I said earlier in terms of the numbers aren't the be all and end all why I do the show. Yeah. But of course, when you get those numbers coming in, and you see the Facebook page go up to 4,000, you see the Instagram getting there, the Twitter slowly getting there. Yeah, it does. You do like seeing those things. I'm not going to say I don't, but being lucky enough to be part of the whole thing, and I know I kind of started it and owned it, but the fact so many people get involved now does make it worthwhile as well. There's no doubt about it.
No, definitely. I had a point, I've completely forgotten it. No, the bit about the fun. You were saying about the fun. That's what it is for us as well. I mean, we've seen the numbers. We had one of our podcasts hit triple figures, and we were like, and it was like, yeah, this is great.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
And it is good to see that, but at the end of the day, it's not really about that. We just like having fun.
Yeah, it's a total roller coaster. I think if you get kind of not hooked on that, but if you just get yourself way into the thinking too much about the numbers, you'll kind of maybe lose the point almost. Yeah. As you said earlier,
yes.
Even if the numbers fell off, would you probably do the next one? Yeah, because I enjoy doing it. Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's fun with friends.
Yeah, ultimately as well. I suppose, I've been doing it for so long now with a fairly rigid format, I have to say, in terms of, news and all that kind of thing, that for a lot of people who listen to my podcast, it's almost like a public service to a degree, because there's a lot of people who are not lucky enough to go to Vegas, and there's a lot of people who have never been to a show and so on. So I think it might be 3, but I'm sure it's 4. 3 or 4 full-length concert audio files I've got over on the SoundCloud page that people who have never got to see a show, it kind of brings them closer to Celine almost. I mean, some of the stats that SoundCloud give you are crazy. You can see by country and by city who's listening and where they're listening. And people as far as I feel as Egypt, Indonesia, South Africa listen to the show. And I like to think in a way it brings them closer to Celine, because it's somewhere she's very unlikely to go in terms of those places. But you never know, I suppose.
Well, no, you never know.
Live at the pyramids.
That's not as crazy as you think. Have you ever seen the picture? You know how everyone sees the normal picture of the 3 pyramids and the sunset and whatnot? Have you ever seen the reverse angle of that when you turn it round and there's this massive city?
Yes.
And it's like this border. It is a great scene to see the pyramids from the other side. that everyone shows you, not what's filmed, but to see how civilization is encroached right upon it.
Yeah, and all the tacky souvenir shops and so on. Yeah.
Because I in my head, I always got this thing like, you'd fly to Egypt, you'd have to live in some kind of shack, and it was like an entire day trip. It was like, right, you get up, you go at 8 in the morning, you'll have this 4-hour bus journey of hell in the desert. You go and see the pyramids a couple of hours and come back, and it's your whole day written off. And then you see that picture, and you're like, literally, you could walk to a house. It's just like, wow.
Mad.
That is crazy.
Sorry, we're going way off topic there, though. That's
no, absolutely fine.
Not that we do any random stuff like that on any other show, but hey.
It's what makes it.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's the crazed ramblings of some daft people from up north.
At least our connection's up to speed now that we can have these kind of banters. Unlike episode 2, Steve. I was telling Shaun about that before the show. Episode 2, when it was just like no banter because we were waiting for like 5 seconds for responses from people.
The days before you had like fibre broadband.
Yes,
basically
the next day I went and bought fibre broadband because it was so bad. Turns out, like I said before the thing, it was my computer that couldn't handle Skype, not my broadband.
Yeah, then you switched it to the phone and it was fine. It was just like, it's horrifying realization. You're like, I've just paid all this extra money for broadband and it was my damn computer this whole time.
I know, it's an extra $250 a month. God,
it's breaking the bank, that is.
Well,
you're out actually
perfect.
nipping back, talking about Vegas. I don't know, sidetracking a little bit. You're back out in Vegas later on, aren't you?
Me, yeah, I'm there in October.
Oh, nice.
Are you taking in a Celine? Oh, yeah, I can't even speak now. A Celine Dion show.
A Celine.
A Celine?
No, I don't think I am. I'm going to see Penn and Teller, but if I spot Celine, I'll say, Shaun says hi.
Yes.
Get a wee soundbite as well.
That's it, yeah. Take your video recording just in case.
David, I mean, I don't know if you've seen on my Facebook page, it was a few years back now. It might have been 2015. I met Penn and Teller after the show, so stay back and meet them. They meet every for free.
We would have done that, because after the show, they'd jump off the stage and run through the crowd, and I was like, whoa! But Ash was 12 weeks pregnant at the time.
Yeah.
So she was like, I feel really bad, I just need to get back to the hotel kind of thing, yeah. So
yeah, no, fair
she
enough.
was really, the Vegas holiday really took it out of her, because her body was just getting used to this whole sprog, getting ready to burst out in 6 months' time.
So hot as well.
So, yeah, the heat did a number on her as well. Even at night, like, we went to the hotel with the pirate ship outside, can't remember which one it is.
Treasure Island.
And they had the show.
Treasure Island, yeah.
I think I'm actually staying there when I go in October. But they had this, like, pirate show. And at the time, I was like, I really want to see this. Turns out I actually got to see a bit of it, and I was kind of like, no, this is not what I wanted at all. Yeah. I wanted swashbuckling, you know? And instead, it's maybe I'm just like a weird kind of guy, but it was all these like scantily women dancing and stuff, and I'm like, no, that's disappointing.
What's wrong with you?
Pleasure pit. I got overloaded at the pleasure pit. That was the problem.
Yeah.
First place I went to in
Vegas. Because we were staying in Planet Hollywood.
So pal said, right, first place we're going to the Planet Hollywood, we're going to the pleasure pit. And I was like, my eyes, I was just like, hello. I was a happy man.
Steve wasted all his money. That wasn't the place of the $100 Coke, was it?
No, I think that was Bally's on day 2. No, I won about $300 in Planet Hollywood on night 1. That was a great day. I played for about 10 minutes. It was about 300 up, and I just cashed out. I was like, "That'll do me. Thanks very much."
That's nice. Yeah,
seen me through about the next 2 days. It was great. And then the next morning, Bally's was the $100 Coke, which was horrific. Because you know how you get the drinks is as long as you're playing, they'll get you drinks. Well, I wasn't feeling the greatest. It was a bit worse for wear after night 1, tearing it up. And I was like, yeah, I'll just have a Coca-Cola, please. And by the time she'd gone and got it and come back, I'd lost $100. So I was like, there's my $100 Coke.
Ouch.
I would hope to be peeing gold after that.
Well, it didn't really. I mean, because I'd won it the night before anyway, I wasn't that annoyed about it, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So, Shaun, you've mentioned your SoundCloud, your Facebook, Instagram. So, tell us everywhere that people can find you. Although, I've Googled Celine Dion Podcast and found you.
Just do that. So if you want to go on Facebook, you'll find us just by searching for Celine Dion Podcast, or if you want to do it the old school way, facebook.com/Celine Podcast. Also on Twitter @Celine Podcast. On Instagram too. Actually, just launched that a month or two ago. Instagram. I thought I better get on the old bandwagon. So again, just search for Celine Dion Podcast. You'll be able to follow us on Instagram. There is a YouTube channel which is updated periodically. The last videos on there are from our most recent trip to Vegas, so you'll see things like inside the Celine Dion store if you're interested in all the merchandise and so on. There's a tour of that. It's youtube.com/the Celine Dion Podcast channel. And finally, and probably most importantly, the podcast shows are on the SoundCloud page. So again, you will find us by searching on SoundCloud, or if you want the URL, it's soundcloud.com/Celine-Dion-podcast. I think
Excellent.
That just about does
it. You're way more organised than me. I'm sitting here going, I don't have hours.
Oh, do you want an email address too? Yes, you do. It's CelineDionPodcast@gmail.com.
There we go.
There you go.
It's quite funny actually when you talk about the Instagram, because that was the reason I discovered you had one.
Yes, absolutely.
I wasn't in the circles for finding out about your podcast, but you set it up, and I was like, "Oh, you podcast?" And you're like, "Yeah, man." And I'm like, "Awesome."
Yeah, I mean, as you can imagine, it's something that I've kind of kept fairly close to my chest in terms of friends and family and so on, because, you know, you guys, let's be honest, there's, you know, you're a Celine Dion fan, really? You know, there's that social stigma there, sadly, which there shouldn't be, but there is. I don't care, and everyone knows that I'm a huge fan, and I've met her and followed her for so on, but the podcast show was probably the age of when I was comfortable sharing, you know, with people in my life. But, you know, as I get older, and, you know, there's just so much more important things to worry about, isn't there?
Well, that's it. And that's kind of where I'm at the moment, is I'm still kind of in that space where I'm like, yeah, I like podcasting. Not overly keen on referring to myself as a podcaster, even though I don't know what the criteria is to be able to declare yourself as one. And I guess for me, it's just having that that confidence to go out and say, yeah, come and listen to me ramble for an hour with Steve and other people and find out about podcasts and things like that. So, no, I totally get that. Totally get that. Steve, anything else from you that you want to ask about?
Unless I missed this earlier, so you've got your own show, and you listen to the Jurassic Park one. Are there any other podcasts that you kind of listen to?
Quite honestly, not regularly. You know, if something takes my interest, you know, I will go and seek it out. But in terms of subscribing and regular listening, quite honestly, no. David sent me the link to this podcast, you know, and I gave that a listen. I think it was the first episode, David.
Right,
yeah, when you
that was just me and Steve.
Yeah, but no, I'm not going to sit and pretend that I have this huge array of podcasts lined up that I listen to, because quite honestly, I don't have the time.
Yeah.
But if something takes my interest here and there, I go and seek it out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, to be honest, I'm the exact same. I mean, I've got 2 jobs, 2 kids, 2 cars, a cat, a wife, a house. Yeah. A trampoline. It soon adds up.
The garden.
Were they listed in order of importance there, were they?
No, reverse. I'll start again. So I've got a trampoline, a garden,
a wife.
Whoa, too soon, man, too soon.
Sorry.
I've got to get my tub of pasta in there first.
Sure.
Oh dear.
I mentioned to you before the podcast that we do a little bit at the end. It's Stu got us onto this one. Stu from Inside the Ogre's Cavern, at ITOC Cast, I believe, called Signal Boosting, where you've got an interest beyond what you do in your podcast, and you just want to give it a little shout out and maybe turn people onto that as well. So, have you got anything you'd like to signal boost?
Well, I feel like I'm a broken record here, but probably the guys over at JurassicParkPodcast.com, I would encourage people who are into that franchise to go and check them out, because it really is interesting and they're uploading all the time. So I feel like it's probably a bit of a cheat suggesting that one, because that's the only one I regularly listen to. But actually, they deserve the support, and they deserve people to check it out, give it a go. They are available over at JurassicParkPodcast.com. And also, from a purely personal point of view, David, you'll be familiar with David Young, our mutual friend, and he and I have recently started embarking on an adventure to cover all 42 Scottish football grounds. We've not kind of put any timeline on it yet, but we're at number 6 at the moment, so kind of at the start. And there's a Facebook page out there, Shaun and David's worldwide tour of Scottish football grounds. So if any of your listeners are interested in all the weird and wacky places in the Scottish football, that's what we want to check out as well.
Let me guess. So it'll be Tannadice, Dens Park, McDermott?
No.
No?
So far. Let me tell you what we've been to so far. We obviously have been to those places as well, but it's not part of the official trip, you see. We've got to do them again.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, right. Makes sense now.
So far, we've been to the Tony Macaroni Arena in Livingston. Oh, yeah.
I love the name of that.
Called that?
It's actually called that. Yeah.
It sounds like a made up. What was
They
it? Was it Phone Jacker or something? It was called the guy that did
Yeah,
the Ugandan dollars.
That's
Tony
right.
Macaroni. Was he the gangster boy?
I think he owns a chain of restaurants now.
What's the story, Tony Macaroni?
Somerset Park in Ayr, Tynecastle in Edinburgh, home of Hearts, and recently, just yesterday in fact, we were at Central Park in Cowdenbeath. So there you go.
Wow.
Yeah.
I still can't get past Tony Macaroni Park. If that was in a film, I would be like, that is just ridiculous. They know nothing about football, says me.
Listen, I'm not sure I do either.
They still serve pies, right?
Yes.
Right, okay. It's like, what's there to eat? Well, it's called Tony Macaroni. Steve, you got anything you want to signal boost?
I don't know. You dick.
I love catching them out on the hop.
Throw stuff at me I'm not prepared for.
I love doing that to you.
Yeah, no, sorry.
Honestly, I'll just throw a random question at him and he's like,
It's too late at night.
Oh, man. What's that?
It's too late at night. My brain stopped working 8 hours ago.
I know. I'm working early tomorrow as well, which is rubbish.
I'm off tomorrow, just saying.
Alright, brilliant. You can't see me shaking my fist at listeners, but I am. Thanks for being on this, Shaun. Thanks for speaking to us. It's been great to have you on.
Thanks very much for the invite. Really, really enjoyed it.
No, it's much appreciated. Right, well, Steve, sign off.
Thanks again for listening. Thanks again to our guest tonight. Right, so @Wise Pranker for myself. You can get me at the AF Cast.
Excellent, thanks for that. Shaun, thanks for being on. You can find us at FCPodNet on Twitter. You can find me at DStoby as well. And if you search for Fair City Podcast, you'll find us in most search engines, Podbean, and now YouTube as well. We have a YouTube channel now, started yesterday, as I mentioned earlier. Until next time, thanks for listening.